Yo, 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 what is going on? IK Familia. It is your boy, BN, Mr. Kingdom Builder. We are back again, giving you that day 3 good, and possibly bad, but it's going to be a lot and everything in between. Again, this is Server 97, Contention of Legends event that is happening up until the first Contention of Relics, for when that'll end, and then 97 will just essentially go back into being a regular server. Now, before we get started and we give you a nice state of affairs overview on what is happening, the good, the bad, and the ugly, so to speak, make sure you guys sub to the channel, hit the like button, and of course ring that notification bell to get updates on when we have new content coming out. Okay, what is happening here on 97? Like I said, it's day 3. If you could imagine that day 3 could be crazier than day 1, you are absolutely right. And we're going to show you and explain how that is, why it's happening, and then I'm going to give you some of my feedback and opinions on it as well. So let's start off with just how the map looks. At the moment, you can see that the map, for the most part, it's pretty much red. It's more red than it was yesterday, and even after level 1 and 2 cities have come up. A couple cities have already been upgraded to level 3. In addition, you now only see 4 cities combined for green and red that have them left. One of them being TWK, this is Worthy Prince's Alliance, and then the other one down here, WN, this is Mayonnaise's Alliance, Wrath. And then the other two here are arguably, could just be Korean alliances, they just went in blue instead of going red. And for the most part, if you exclude those two, you pretty much have 2 alliances that are kind of NA-based that have 2 cities out of the 33 that you would see there for RSS Zone 1 cities, which are going to be the perimeter ones that opened up. Meaning that 31 cities are controlled by arguably, the other regions. With that in mind, level 1 and level 2 cities are not difficult to recapture, right? They're pretty low power, and that is not really where the challenging part comes in. It's that when you see a map like this, right, and let's just talk about this from kind of a server trending point. When you see things like this happen, this, for some players, can be demoralizing. And it doesn't mean everyone, right? Because if you asked me, hey boss, does the map look god-awful, I would tell you no, it doesn't. Visually, it can be a turnoff. But keep in mind, this could just be, it could be a situation where these alliances just were able to be online when the cities opened before other alliances could. Does that immediately mean that the server is now all of a sudden trending red or trending one color or the other, and now hope is just becoming less and less? No, not at all. Again, cities can easily be recaptured. You can do joint efforts. There's a lot of things you can do. This is never something to, scream doomsday at, so to speak. But when you factor that, again, context matters and circumstances matter. So let's look at some of the like the intangibles, right? For after we look at the map, let's look at the leaderboards. So let's look at alliance power. If you were to come on this server and you looked at it, you would see, okay, well, top 5 are red. Maybe there's some other alliances that are a little below this. You scroll down a little bit, you're like, okay, 6 and 7 is red as well. And then you have the number 1 green, which is 6.4, right? And again, this is almost 4 million power below the number 1. With that being said, you can now look at the server and start painting a little bit more of a clearer picture on how things are going to develop. And because of that, it now lends more weight to the map being all red. And that this could be the indication for how it trends going across the next couple days and the next couple weeks, right? In addition, now let's look at troop power. Right, strongest troop power for the most part is what we usually like to go off of as being more consistent, because it kind of shows you who is able to attack who, and also which factions might have somewhat of a fighting chance depending on where they go. Now also bear in mind, even if you have one player that is a whale and he's 5, 10, 15, 20k above anyone else, it still does not mean that they are going to be able to overtake a server. A good example is what we experienced on server 36. For my project that we ran there was a player that was a good amount of power, the number 1 guy, over the number 2 and the number 3 respectively. It still did not mean that they were able to do everything. One player cannot do everything, right? Infinity Kingdom is different in that regard compared to other kingdom builders where you're limited on troops, you're limited on the amount of AP you can use, and you're limited by you just being one player. You cannot be everywhere at one point. So that's why I don't put too much stock if I see a rogue player, because again, unless they have a backing behind them that is able to compete with the majority of the opposition, they're not going to be able to do that much. Now, in this sense, right, you have the number 2 and the number 3 red player at 50 and 46k, with Mayonnaise being at 44. There's a good chance, depending, let me see, I think he's probably running Earth, he is, and then Water. So you never know. There's a good chance that Mayonnaise might have a chance of beating Z possibly in the matchup, even though he's only a little weaker. But it's probably going to be difficult to get past the 50 and then the 58k once you start climbing up on those. So with this being said, you now look at this as, okay, well, who are the potential saviors? Who are the people that can challenge some of the top? For the most part, pretty much no one at the moment, at least when you look at the top 2 players at 50 and 58k. This means that you would then have to try and devise somewhat of a strategy based on their offline times, and you can dive in and get more specific in that, but that's kind of a very, very entry-level way of envisioning how you would come up with a game plan. And so when you look at these things, and then you also look at, like, I mean, let's just look at Lord Power. You have someone that's almost half a mil here that is on almost day 3. That is wild. You look at the number 2, the number 3 player at 350. You have a couple people over a quarter mil. And again, we're day 3, right? And you look at this, right? You got 16 players right here. Sorry, 15 that are already at a quarter, with the number 16 almost being there. And the next strongest player, Mayonnaise, at 17. So the server is trending red, and it's probably going to keep going that way. Now, let's talk about exactly why these things are happening. The reason why you're seeing these things happen is because of when they announced that these new servers are coming out. Keep in mind, again, that when they announced the new servers, they also announced the regions, right? Everyone knew. I mean, I would imagine that when you look at the regions like Taiwan, South Korea, Macau, others, there was most likely a pre-registration phase. They had to know more than just 2 days in advance on when the game was going to go live for their regions, right? It would be almost, I mean, again, right, unless there's some overwhelming evidence someone can show me that no, the players in those regions only knew the game was going to go live 2 days before September 23rd on the 21st, that would be different. But I highly doubt that's the case. They had to have some kind of pre-registration point. They had to know well in advance, just like us in NA, right, knew that you had a pre-registration for IK well before, way more than 2 days before it went live, and before those players got access to it. So when you look at it like that, you have all these players that are waiting to play the game the moment it is released to their region. That is one of the reasons why you're getting more and more influx and traffic of players that are coming into the game, and that is why Red is so overwhelmingly populated, in addition to the content creators from those regions that are promoting those as well, right? So it's these compounding accumulative effects that are giving you the idea for Red playing out the way that it is. Now, keep in mind, yes, these players do have to spend if they want to be at the top, and there's no way of being able to know if they are going to or not, but it does give them certain advantages. And those advantages are how you're now seeing play out on 97. Now let's flip the script and go over to the Facebook, because I think this is really important information that I want to show off that I think plays very well into what we're seeing in other areas for 97, is that you now see that they're doing these comic strips. And I actually like these. I think this is really cool. Like, they're really trying to promote the server. It's almost like, there's a big tournament going on and ESPN is covering it on a news coverage basis. This is a little of kind of what you're seeing of that, and I do like it. I am a fan. In the same breath, though, when you look at how they're posting some of their Facebook context and language here, As an example, you see newest update in Contention of Legends. This was yesterday, right, a little less than 24 hours ago. Yidvia has occupied none of the cities on the map. Will Yidvia catch up with the other two factions soon? Come and support Yidvia in Server 97. Newest updates. Alliances led by South Korean influencers are strong, united. They've taken 15 cities in total in hours. Infighting between Hong Kong alliances. Players from Vitas for rallying against its top players. Like, don't get me wrong. These are cool. I like seeing these. But again, keep in mind that when they're promoting it the way they are, and don't get me wrong, this is, I'm not saying don't do that by any means, but let's just be realistic with how these things are happening, right? If you, and again, this is really meant for just people that play the game. If you are a Kingdom Builder player, if you're a veteran, if you've played multiple Kingdom Builders, if you've been in successful and unsuccessful kingdoms or servers, and you know, or you are at least familiar with some of the trends that I'm talking about, you would know how much of an advantage that Red / the new regions that got access to the game, specifically for 97, outside of the 94 to 97 cluster, right, are playing to their strengths because of these things that are happening for them. In addition, don't get me wrong, even with the news coverage, right, them trying to promote Yidvia and get some more people into the blue faction, that's great. I personally don't think that's going to change anything at this point in time. And the other thing I want to make a note of is when you look at everything that happened, the important part to really take away here is that players would need to recognize that when you have the event that was promoted 2 days before September 23rd, and here I'm going to give you an example. So let's look at here. This is what we're going to do. Let's look at Omniarch, his YouTube channel, and oh gosh, hang on. I think I have to just do YouTube here. That's what we'll do. So we're going to look at Omni's YouTube, and I'm going to show you a video real quick because this was the very first video that I saw from Omni that was talking about COL for 97. It was right here. It was 4 days ago, right? This was the very first piece of information, at least from none of the new regions, from the current regions that have access to the game. This is the very first piece of content I saw that was specifically talking about this event, right? That means that IK didn't promote this on the Facebook. They didn't promote this on their Discord. There was no information about this event until I saw this video here that really gave specific details, right? Now, I want to say there may have been 1 or 2 posts prior to that, but they in no way, shape, or form went into the amount of detail that actually provided us what the actual event was going to be like. And so from there, that is why I talk about how it's important to recognize the pros and cons, and that all of the current regions were severely underprepared in a lot of ways. That doesn't make the type of news coverage that IK is putting into 97 really balanced and fair, because of all of the overwhelming factors that went into the new players being more prepared, whether that be the direct ways or the indirect ways they were more prepared than the other regions, being specifically blue and green, but more so blue in a sense. And so because of that, right, you can see the coverage, and I love how they have this. Like, I love the fact that you can look at how the event is going from any server. This is a fantastic, fantastic feature. I love it. I would love for them to expand on it, too, as well. Like, I like how you can go here, you can click on the map, and you can see the battle reports. You can even look at faction power. I would love for them to dive more into this. And just offer more things. Maybe allow for players to look at the leaderboards. Maybe allow for them to look at how World Chat is going or something. I mean, whatever it may be, right? I like this, and I'm sure if we just sat down and really thought about it, we could come up with some more ways to do this. You could even use this for SVS. You can use this if you ever do additional events going forward. I love the Contention of Legends type of event. I just wish there would have been more awareness about the event and it would have been promoted earlier. That's my biggest thing right there. Beyond that, right, a big shout out to some of the guys we have in OG, like I had mentioned there with Poochie, and then we got Jestar, right, 2 of the top guys from OG, higher on the leaderboards there representing, and it's been fun, for the most part, myself, Some of our leads and our officer team from 79, we came in to kind of help with some of the management here in OG and with Omni, along with some of our players that came in. And the big thing we always told everyone up front is like, look, the only people that should really be coming to 97 are, one, people that just have a lot of extra free time, or two, the people that have a little bit of extra money in their budget and they don't mind spending it, right? Because we're really here just to see if we can even do anything leading up to Contention of Relics round 1, and then players can opt to migrate their accounts out if they want, right? There's not really a long-term plan to stay in 97. It's really more so, at least for what I should say, some of my players, right? The ones that are coming from 79. I don't know how others are feeling about it. I know we've promoted that to other people that have joined as well for some of them, that look, we have realistic expectations. And for myself, I'm definitely here for the content, first and foremost. Secondly, just to help out with some of the OG Alliance management. And it's been fun. It's been awesome to see a lot of players from around Infinity Kingdom that have came over to all join OG and some of the other alliances. People that you now have an opportunity to build rapport with, make connections with, meet, have some laughs, socialize. That's awesome. I love that aspect. Right, I've been talking now with players from other servers that are some top players there, some free-to-play grinders, some just nice people. And for me, that is one of the best aspects that I love about these types of games, is the socializing. Given all of that being said, that is pretty much where 97 is going. So if you're asking me, let me round out with my summary now. Where I really think 97 is going to go is Red is just going to keep dominating. They're going to keep putting pressure. They're most likely end up capping the remaining cities, at least arguably the TWK and then the WON cities. They might leave those other two for what it seems to be the Korean Alliance at face value, and we'll see how that goes. And then once the 3 cities come out, they'll probably try and take all of those. And again, this would be kind of somewhat shocking. I mean, this could arguably be the first server that we've seen as well. Understandably, there is a super handicap here as well for blue and green. But this could be the first server that we're going to see just be completely dominated this strongly by one faction. And if that happens, once the level 3 cities open up, I think it's probably a foregone conclusion that we're going to end up seeing Red win COR1, and then it'll just be a matter of which alliance takes it. If they designate one, they're okay doing that, or if there actually going to be some fighting that's going on between one another. So that'll be really interesting to see how that goes. And then we'll always be sure to be online to bring you guys any Drama Llama Fest that we're able to gather from 97. That is it for me. Let me know what you guys think. How do you think 97 is going? Did you anticipate this as well? Are you shocked? Are you flabbergasted by how strong some of the people are? Also goes into how much they're spending as well from some of the new regions. Is it surprising? Is it not? Let me know anything and everything y'all are thinking in those comments down below. That is it for me. We're out. Until next time. Later.